Welcome to this Windows Computer and Technology channel, and I wanted to do a little something about first saying how I started and why I'm here, actually, because this is what started all, and also to talk about one of the most famous computers that ever existed on this planet. So this is what started my computer passion. Someday, my father came home with this Commodore Vic 20. And I guess we were around 1981-ish, 82. And I was totally amazed at this little machine. Actually, I have a screen. There's, of course, emulators that are here. This is what the screen was like. It had, 3.5 kilobytes of RAM available for, programs. Played games with this, did a lot of stuff with this. This was a computer that I used until about 1985. And 1985, there was a new computer that I wanted. And no, it's not the Commodore 64. I actually jumped over the Commodore 64 at that time. So my next computer that was after this was actually the famous Commodore 128, which was also fairly popular, but most of the people were in the Commodore 64 computers. Now, I did, of course, enjoy the Commodore 64 because the Commodore 128, for those that don't know what it is a 3-in-1 computer. So it had a Commodore 128, it had a Commodore 64 mode, and it had a CP/M machine in it. It has actually a Z80 CPU alongside the 8510 or 8502 CPU that they put in here. So my next step was I was immersed in the world of Commodore 64 and Commodore 64 games with the added bonus of better basic and other features of Commodore 128, including the 80 columns terminal, which was really nice because the 80 columns mode enabled me with modems to go to bulletin board systems, BBSs, that were kind of PC-like, but because it had 80 columns in color and I had a specific program terminal for modem, I was able to see it as if it was a IBM PC on the BBSs, which was nice. And so the Commodore 128 was my next step personally. And this was my next step until about 1989. In which I actually, and for just showing the Commodore's 128 screen, this is what it was. It had 128K of RAM available, so 122,000 actually free for basic, and it had much more advanced basic commands. Also, you could actually, use sprites and do graphics commands. Like for example, I don't know if I still remember graphics 2.1. Nope, that was not it, or I don't remember how to do it, but I remember graphics. Well, 1.1. What was graphics command? I don't remember the graphics command, but I remember doing graphics on this thing, and I could do, there was like commands to do circle, but you had to put it in graphics area. That's the thing. So I don't know what graphics command that I'm not doing or something like that. But anyways, it doesn't matter. This was the main program that I was using back then. And it had a terminal also for machine language, all sorts of things. It was pretty cool. And that was my main computer until, like I said, 89. Now, I then moved to what was the last computer before a PC, and it was the Amiga 500. By the way, I both have the Commodore 128 and the Amiga 500 right here. They're ready to work. They actually are still working on my big screen TV. I fitted them with a SD card reader rather than floppies, so that I can put images and not have to deal with floppies anymore. So Amiga 500, a big step forward, also a very amazing machine for its time. This was the most advanced computer for its time. It was 1,000,000 times better than a Mac, 1,000,000 times better than anything, than any PCs. It's sad that it didn't really catch on because, honestly, this was an amazing computer. But we had the start of the PCs, and that was gaining momentum, and, well, brings us to the world of today, if you want. Now, I want to talk about one that is actually celebrating the 40th anniversary today, and some of you might remember this famous screen here, and this was really definitely a computer that changed the world for a lot of people. And you could actually do a lot of gaming, and there's a lot of software. This was and is to this day one of the most. I'm not sure it is the most popular computer ever sold, but it's one of the most popular computers ever sold, definitely. Made by Commodore, the famous Commodore 64, and that was the dominant computer for such a long time in the 80s. And it did things that, over time, it actually did things we didn't even think it could do. Because, the companies creating the software had a lot of imagination. And actually, it was a great machine to do a lot of stuff. And it was a great gaming machine also. Only drawback, boy, did that disk drive was so slow, the 1541. But, hey, that was the fun of the times, going to the BBSs. So 40th anniversary, pretty crazy. It was introduced in August of 1982. Pretty amazing. Actually, it was introduced at the Consumer Electronics Show of January 82, but came into production and was available to purchase for $595. Lots of money for 1982, but still very cheap compared to, a lot of PCs that were out there. And then, of course, I moved on to my first PC, which was a 286 that at first had only a floppy drive, and then was able to fit in a 75 megabyte hard drive. And then moved on to after the 286, I jumped to a 486 DX100. And then moved on to the Pentium computers. I had a Pentium 166. Moved on to a Pentium 3600. That was in around 1999. Very expensive machine. Started my tech guy duties with Windows 98 being pretty much the dominant system when I started in 2000. And of course then some had Windows 2000. Some had Windows Millennium. There was Windows XP that came out after that. Windows XP ran on my Pentium 3. I then moved to a Pentium 4, 3 gigahertz with hyper-threading. That was my main machine, and then I played a lot of games with that, changing the graphics card every 6 months to play the latest games. And from the Pentium 4, I then pretty much jumped into what was the world of laptops and continued with laptops, and eventually didn't have any desktop anymore, and today still have laptops and gaming laptops. So that was the little story behind me. Is me being here doing YouTube videos and stuff about computers and technology, actually. And it all started on a Commodore Vic 20 in my case. And of course, I enjoyed the Commodore 64 side on the Commodore 128 in 64 mode. So, little story. If I'd like to know, what was your first PC? Was it something from the 80s or 70s, a PET, maybe an Apple, maybe like a Macintosh Plus, or a Commodore computer, or an Atari? What was it? What did you use? What was your first machine that was a computer? And of course, some of you here are young, so you might be PCs with Windows, or it could be a PC with DOS or anything. Be curious to know what started the computer interest and passion, or at least the use of computers for you guys. It'd be interesting to see, and I'd like to know where you all started. So post that in the comments below. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up, and thank you for watching.